I just wanted to tell you a little bit now about our guest speaker tonight, Mr. Colin Wilby. Like I said, he's very kindly come in and agreed to do his presentation, which is the culmination of a great amount of work, years and years of research. And I think I'm right in saying that we've got the privilege of seeing some of that information. You know, this could be one of the, is that right? We're one of the first places, Colin?
Yeah,
we're getting the download here, so
before the book comes out.
that's really exciting. And Colin's travelled worldwide for over 20 years, teaching psychology and English, and pursuing an interest in the ancient geometric symbolism. Whilst teaching at the Japanese Foreign Ministry, he took part in a sacred run with American Indians to mark the 50th anniversary of the atomic bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and subsequently did a peace run through Ireland with the same group in 1997. He has worked as a Feng Shui consultant and as a professional dowser. And he has also been involved in festival area design. He focused on earth healing circles in Israel from 1996 to 2001, and during this time he's built a large number of geodesic domes, including a 30-foot diameter peace dome on the West Bank, sponsored by Rothschild, for use by children of all religio-political groups. Now, Colin met up with John Michel, the famous author John Michel, in the old city of Jerusalem in 1999. That must have been quite a fortuitous meeting, as John finalised his work on the Jerusalem cubit and the temple, later published as the Temple at Jerusalem, a revelation. This meeting triggered a 9-year research project into ancient megalithic geometry and symbolism. The outcome of Colin's research, shortly to be published as a book entitled The Peace Mandala, describes a megalithic design which explains the astronomical functioning of Stonehenge, yet also incorporates the microcosmic Vitruvian sketch by Da Vinci. The city grid of Jerusalem Old City and the symbolism of the area around Rennes-le-Château in the Pyrenees. This design shows how Stone Age mankind envisaged a mandala of concentric circles which allowed the merging of macrocosmic, planetary and microcosmic human images using a grid. Old French for grow. That's quite interesting. Of numbers that was subsequently adopted by medieval church authorities, Freemasons, and eventually encapsulated the British statute measures of the mile, furlong and foot. Colin is also writing a book on Taoist practices of natural contraception, and currently grows vegetables for his organic vegetable box scheme called AgriPod in Brighton, utilising geodesic domes and as greenhousing. The website for his book, Peace Mandala, is www.peacemandalas.org, and it will be launched this autumn. So there's some amazing stuff that Colin's been involved with, and like I say, we're very fortunate that he's agreed to come in today. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, please could I get a round of applause for Colin.
Thank you all for coming today. I'm going to do a talk on megalithic sacred geometry. You heard the introduction there. We'll start off with this 5-element theory, get straight into it. This is by means of an introduction. One of the reasons why a lot of us fail to see what's really going on is because we tend to focus on these 4 elements here, and astronomy backs that up using these 4 elements. But if you look over in the Asian, sphere, where I lived for about 10 years, then the missing one isn't ether, which is what you would find according to Plato, I think, or Aristotle. You would find wood, and it's particularly interesting because it gives us this pentagon. Now, if you want to see an example of a pentagon, look at the seal of Constantine, who was the first Christian emperor of Rome. His seal had a pentagon on it, so he wasn't really uninterested in pentagons. He used it as his seal, but he didn't, maybe because he was fighting the Druids, and because he was fighting at one end, and at the other side he was fighting, well, in terms of history, the Druids, but on the other side of the empire he was fighting the Hebrews, who had their sacred groves of trees and what have you. Maybe, if you're a conspiracy theorist, he got rid of the wood element and focused everybody on being a bit square instead of 5 elements. If you look at some examples of how this works, you think of the Earth as a fireball, and then slowly the Earth is solidifying on the surface. You get this material Earth. The volcanoes from inside then spew out lots of gases, creating the atmosphere. It cools down until you get water, and eventually up we come we belong to this element here, the wood element. It wasn't until the 19th century that the British, I think a British biochemist introduced ether as in the organic chain of elements. It's derivable from ethyl alcohol, which is wood, so he brought us back into a certain amount of perspective there with the missing 5th element. The Chinese even go so far as to name different points here. If you have a peaceful life and there's not so much of the fire of war, then you get prosperity. From prosperity you get health. From health you get happiness, and thus you end up with a long and happy life. So unlike the rather doom-ridden 2012 prophecies that seem to be coming up now, we're at this sort of constant 10 o'clock over billions of years of Earth history. I'm an ex-comprehensive school teacher, so if you want to shout out in the middle of the corrections, feel free. If I stop working after 45 minutes, you'll understand why. Going on to this same group of 5 elements, there's no. It's very easy for us to poo-poo it and say, well, we've got our 4 elements, they've got their 5 elements. But in fact, if you look at acupuncture, you've got 5 elements written in you. These 2 fingers on your hand here relate to the air elements over here, and these 3 fingers here relate to fire elements, and you've got 2 fire elements here. So the fire elements doubled here, whereas you would have 6 meridians related to the hand and another 6 related to the foot. The way they managed to do it, because there's 12, you've got 6 here and 6 on each foot, so 12 on each side, and making 24. The way they managed to do that with the pentagon is they double up this fire element into 4 sets of meridians.